Morning, everyone. Morning. Good to see everyone here. Let's go to page 231. Page 231. Burdens are lifted at Calvary.
Filled with sorrow and care, our hearts are lonely and dear. Burdens are lifted at Calvary, very near. Burdens are lifted at Calvary, Calvary, Calvary. Burdens are lifted at Calvary. Jesus is very near.
Jesus today, we hurry and free. Burdens are laid at Calvary. Jesus is very near.
Burdens are lifted at Calvary, Calvary, Calvary. Burdens are lifted at Calvary. Jesus is very near.
Oh, so the Spirit and see, every heartache and tear.
Burdens are lifted at Calvary, Calvary very near. Burdens are lifted at Calvary, Calvary, Calvary. Burdens are lifted at Calvary. Jesus is very near.
And this morning we come worship you, we're thankful for everything that you've done for us. We just pray that you be honored, you be glorified, and all. Maybe today, Lord, finish out the series, the grace of the we are the people here today. Burdens, hardships, and burdens. Pray that you help us to be able to do it. For your grace. There's just some things that we're going to have to take ownership of. We're going to do that. Maybe the state of Kentucky was picnic, church anniversary. What's the same word? That's all we say, amen. Amen. Already, Randolph said this week, Deuteronomy chapter number 15. You got your Bible there, Deuteronomy chapter number 15. Verse number 7. If there be among you a poor man, one of thy brethren, within any of thy gates to the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not harden thine heart, shut thine hand from the poor brother, but thou shalt open thine hand wide, and shalt surely be insufficient for thee seventh year, the year of truth, is at hand, and that I, the evil, have spread for us. And thou givest him up. And he cried to the Lord against me, and if he sinned unto me. The passage here was given to the Israelite people, and it gives guidelines on how to care for poor people. And it brings up the idea here of cancellation of debt every 7 years. All the debts were canceled. And basically it says this, listen, if some guy comes to you and says, I need help, I need bread or whatever for my family, and I have no way of being able to pay it back to you anytime soon. And it's the 7th year, which means all that's going to get canceled in a few weeks or a few months or whatever. It would be human tendency, it is human tendency to be like, well, then I'm just not going to do it. There's absolutely no possible way of me ever getting money back. Listen, one of the wisest things, and I'm sure all of us know, don't give anything when you don't expect to get it back. But somewhere in the back of our mind, we always say, well, they may not be able to give it back in 5 or 10 or 15, and they may never be able to give it back, but somebody will give it back eventually. But when all debt is canceled, the slate is when there is obviously no possible way for you outside of God. Obviously, you know that God will provide your needs. And so the principle is the same for us today. And so while we, in the second year, we're going to bring our tithes and our offerings. And so I want us to keep in mind, thankful that you guys have been generous throughout. I know we're coming out of this COVID thing and keep threatening us back in. And we're not going through that again. It's just not happening. And so let's we'll bring the offering and we'll do that. Lord, come before you. This morning, we pray that you take the money and use it better for your kingdom. Amen. Let's turn to page 16.
Now we gather at the river where a bright anchor trod, with its crystal tide forever flowing by the throne of God. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river. We can go to the throne of God. On the bush bosom of the river, where the Savior King we owe. We shall keep forever. We are best. We get at the river, the beautiful river. And chase out the river, that flows from the throne of God. River. A river, the beautiful river, gathers with the saints at the river that flows through God. Soon we'll reach the shining river, soon our pilgrimage see. And river is the melody of peace. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows from the throne of God.
So we got a prayer that came from Munson. We are very thankful for all of your prayers. The Lord has given us, praise the Lord, for the doors He has opened. We've been in several new churches this year. We've also gained several leadership works of continuing to stand or serving the Lord. Busy filling all of it. The burden, the full more revival, meetings and anything we need in America and our churches and our lives is revival. Christ is the only true hope that we have. Several special meetings, missions conferences, patriotic veteran services, and Vietnam vet. He's working on getting a trip over to Romania, so obviously keep that in prayers that everything will work out, both physically and financially for that. So I'm ready for his wife here and her dad is 95 years old and his health is deteriorating quickly. So keep that in mind. I'll put that up after the service.
Let's turn to page 181. Page 181. Love lifted me.
Sleeping deep in sin, very deep in sinking to rise no more. But the master of the sea heard my despairing cry. From the waters lifted me, now safe am I. Love lifted even me, love lifted even me. When nothing else could help, love lifted me, love lifted me. When nothing else could help, love lifted me. All my heart to Him I give, ever to Him I cling. In His blessed presence live, ever His praise to sing. love so mighty and so true, merits us all. We move is to and belong. Love lifted even me, love lifted even me. When nothing else could help, love lifted me. Love lifted even me, love lifted even me. When nothing else could love, love lifted me.
So we raise and look above, Jesus completely saved. We were lifted by His love and the angry grace. He's the master of the sea, does His will obey. He your Savior wants to be the same today.
Love lifted even me, lifted even me. When nothing else could help, love lifted me. Love lifted even me, love lifted even me. When nothing else could help, love lifted me.
Oh, for just for a second, I thought she was gonna play the violin and the piano. I was like, that I gotta see. You see those people like the one person band, you know, they got the clackers connected to the knees out, oh, similar, right? Similar. All right, grab your Bibles, hold them up. This is my Bible,
This is my Bible,
God's holy word.
God's holy word.
I can be what it wants me to be.
I can be what it wants me to be.
My mind is alert.
My mind is alert.
My heart is receptive.
My heart is receptive. I will not leave the same.
All right. First Peter, chapter number 4. We're just going to jump right into it because we got food and I know why you really can't eat Mr. Cold ribs. He told me they were hot, so if you don't like hot food.
Not spicy, just hot.
Tell him, Dad, I'm trying to save more for me. Like our brother Lauder told the kids in Sunday school, like, now let us go downstairs first, and we'll make sure that they're safe, because, you know, ribs have small bones, we don't like you choking on it. So give us like an hour to make sure that, you know, all the ribs are. Miss Linda told the kids they're boy. We were just trying to get more ribs for us. But anyway, First Peter, chapter number 4. We're in our last message on the grace of ownership, the gifts of the grace of ownership. And we're going to jump right into here. First Peter, chapter number 4, verse number 1. For as much then as Christ hath suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourself likewise with the same mind. For he that hath suffered in the flesh hath ceased from sin, that he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh, the lust of men, but the will of God. For the time past of your life may suffice us to have wrought the will of the Gentiles, when we walk in lasciviousness, lust, excessive wine, revelings, banquetings, and abominable idolatry, wherein they think it strange that ye run not with them to the same excess of life, speaking evil of you, who shall give account to him that is ready to judge the quick and the dead. For this cause was the gospel preached also to them that are dead, that they might be judged according to men in the flesh, but was according to God in the Spirit. For the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. Above all things, have fervent charity among yourselves, for charity will cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man hath received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. Let's pray. Lord, again, we come before you this morning, and we just pray that you speak to us this morning, Lord, that through your message we be better servants, fit for your service, Lord. Lord, that you be honored, and you be glorified, that you be pleased in the worship that takes place this morning, Lord. We ask these things in your name. Amen. Talking about the ownership of service. There's some things that we need to recognize. The first thing is we need to recognize that if you're saved, if you know Christ, you have at least one gift. At the very least, you have one. Now, probably more than likely, you have more than one. We see that in verse number 1, verse number 10. God designed his church to function in a fashion where God gives every person a gift. And you're supposed to use that gift to help the church. Whether it be helping the church in here or helping the church become better equipped and better serve the community. Reach more people around the world. But God, listen, we're not supposed to waste it on ourselves. I know we spent a couple of sermons with talking about the guy with the 5 talents, the guy with 2 talents, the guy with 1 talent. But he wasted it on himself. He didn't do anything with it. Buried in the ground, didn't do anything with it. Listen, that's not why God gave us those. Listen, very first principle of ownership is what? We don't own anything. God owns it all. I mean, absolutely. God owns your intelligence. He owns your finances. He owns your good looks or your lack thereof if you're like me. Listen, God owns everything. And he's given us, he hasn't given us all the same gift. I think it was not the best Wednesday night, it was the Wednesday night before. We're not all supposed to be the same. See, many times we read the scriptures, you know, they had all things common, and you know, and unity and all of that. Listen, it's not uniformity. It's that they all had the same goal. And I gave you the example that when you bend your elbow, this muscle's bending this way, this muscle's bending that way. They're going in opposite directions. But they're working together so you can bend your elbow. They're working in unity, although they're not working in uniformity. We all have a gift. That word gift comes from the Greek word where we also get the word charisma. And interestingly enough, that it's very similar. Obviously, it's not the same word, but it's a form of the Greek word for the word grace. I just found that interesting. So see how we're talking about this gift of grace in our series, The Grace of Ownership. God has given us abilities and talents and power through His grace. You have a gift, something that God's graciously handed out to you, and we're told at the end of it that we're supposed to be what? Stewards of the manifold grace of God at the end of verse number 10. Romans chapter number 12. Romans chapter number 12. Verse number 6. Having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, whether prophecy, let us prophesy according to the proportion of a work ministry. He let us wait on our ministry when he that teaches, on teaching when he that exhorteth, on exhortation. He that giveth, let him do so with simplicity. He that ruleth with diligence, he that showeth mercy with cheerfulness. Let love be without dissimulation. Abhor that which is evil, cleave to that which is good. Be kind and affectionate one to another, of my brothers, with brotherly love and honoring preferment one another, not slothful in busyness, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing instant in prayer, distributing the necessity of the saints, giving the hospitality. And I could continue reading. I was supposed to end at verse number 6. I just kept going because it all goes together, obviously. Listen, we all have different gifts, right? Some of those gifts would be referred to as gone away when there's no more prophesying going on. I'm not up here prophesying, just so you know. I have no idea what's going to happen. Now, I should say that. There are two things that I know are going to happen. After I'm done praying the Lord Gary during the week, I know that. But there are a few things, listen, and things that haven't happened yet that are recorded in the scripture. We briefly talked about gold this morning, referenced it in Revelation, obviously. There's prophecy there. No, listen, those things are going to happen, but I'm not prophesying. I'm just reading what I already have been told. So that has gone away with. Listen, no one meets the qualifications to be an apostle anymore. No one's physically seen Jesus that's alive today. I don't care how many being believers you had last night. You didn't see Jesus. Okay, it's just it didn't happen. So there are some gifts that have gone away, but most of the gifts are still given today: teaching, preaching, those things. It's important for us to celebrate the uniqueness and the variety of gifts among the church family. Every person in the church has a unique gift, and it ought to be recognized, and it ought to be celebrated. Listen, I am so thankful that Brad can say that I have a hard enough time playing the radio. Can't play the piano. I really can't play the violin because I have a hard enough time. I can hit the button. That's about it on the radio. I even have a hard time. You're traveling. I think satellite radio is the best invention ever because I have a hard time trying to find a radio station that I want. Well, that might be because it's not on radio. But anyway, that's a different sermon, I guess. Listen, there's a variety of gifts that ought to be celebrated. Each person's gift is going to be unique to the way that God created them, with their abilities. Each believer's spiritual giftedness is unique, as they are. We love to say, we're all unique, and, just like a snowflake, in a good way, not in a bad way. Society is big and little snowflake. But no, look at this snowflake. No two snowflakes are the same. No two Christians are the same. No, their gifts aren't the same. Even if they
look similar. Was that someone was talking that they had their twins, they looked nothing like that. They saw their twins, they looked nothing. Even twins, twins have almost identical DNA. But even as we would refer to identical, twins aren't identical. Each individual person is different. You need to ask yourself this question. How do I know what my spiritual gift is? See, we can't go any further in our Christian lives if we don't know what our spiritual gift is, then we can't go any further. We can't use what the Lord has given us. And obviously there's, and you can go online and find spiritual gift test and you can take over the front of it. It might be educational. But listen, can we just, I'll make it really simple for you. Your spiritual gift is this. If you need to find out, ask your husband, ask your wife. They'll tell you. They might tell you some other things too. But they'll be like, honey, listen, in all seriousness, I don't know what it is. Tell me what it is. Like this is not a time to be rude or mean or joking. And maybe we can do that in a second. But I don't seriously know what my spiritual gift is. They'll tell you. They know. And the second thing is this, it's something that you enjoy. I guarantee you that your spiritual gift is something that you enjoy. Why? Because God gave it to you. And so you're going to enjoy doing it. Now that's not giving us an excuse to say, well, I don't enjoy, so I'm not going to. Listen, there are things that you're supposed to do whether you like to or not. Listen, the Bible makes the what statement? God loveth a cheerful giver. But whether you're a cheerful giver, that doesn't take away from the fact that you're supposed to give. He just loves one that is cheerful. You're stuck. Well, you're supposed to give one way or another. Listen, so just because you really, I don't really like doing this. There are some things. Listen, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel every creature. Well, I don't like talking to people. Too bad. You're supposed to. Now, I realize, listen, there are a variety of different ways to try and make you more comfortable in doing that, and that's fine. But as long as you're telling people about Jesus. I say you pick up I just don't do well face to face. Pick up a telephone then. There's a lady out in California. She has no arms, no legs. She can't do anything. I don't know if she's an accident or she was born that way. Listen, but the most amazing thing happens, at least it used to happen. I don't know if it still happens anymore in today's society, but at least it used to happen. Once a year, somebody drops a magic book at your front door. It's about Nathan. And it's got the phone number for just about everybody in the entire world, it seems like. What that lady does is she just goes through the phone book every year. You don't know me. I'm a member of such and such Baptist church. I just want to make sure that, because I really can't get out. I don't have any arms and legs. I can't knock on a door. I mean, that's like physically impossible. But she found a way. Listen, it doesn't excuse us from certain things, but listen, your gift is something that you enjoy because God gave it to you. And it's important to the church. I told you I'm thankful for Brad who does the music, Mr. Gold, runs the sound. Because I mean, wouldn't it be really weird if I had to run back there all the time, tweaking the sound line and like preaching? And we all know things that we've been limping along about from the monitor, keeping us all straight. And so we're glad to have him back here. And he'll whip us back into shape for sure. He's got to whip himself back into shape a little bit first. But listen, what we all have a gift, and listen, we all know the back of our mind that so and so. When they're not gone, it becomes very evident, very quickly. Talking about ownership. It's a great gift of ownership. Listen, God didn't have to give us gifts. It was through His grace. And because He gave it to us, we're supposed to use it not on ourselves. We're supposed to use it for the cause of Christ, to further His kingdom. Last year we it was funny, last year we talked about how, the different realms. And listen, you guys know that my OCD comes out, and so I've got the earphones out to some extent. And listen, before COVID ever started, I knew that at some given point in time, I was going to preach about how, different realms. And listen, one realm doesn't have any authority in the other realm. Listen, as a pastor, I don't have any authority in the White House or in Senate. Zip, no. All of the foreign languages have just been exhausted. Okay. They don't have any authority here. They tried to exercise it. We're thankful that we didn't have any issues with them. I know other places did it. Listen, we're supposed to worry about this kingdom, not this kingdom. And our gift is supposed to be used to further the cause of Christ. Second thing, find ways to employ your gift. Once you've figured out what your gift is, then you got to figure out how to use it properly. Because this isn't an investigative issue. We're supposed to employ our gift, serving others through Jesus' church. That's the bottom line. Each one of you has received a gift. Here's what you're supposed to do: employ it and serve one another. So cherish the privilege of using your gift for the reason the Master gave it. Listen, there's nothing wrong with having fun. And you guys know I enjoy sports and other things like that. And again, my boys are excited to go fishing with the water. And listen, there's nothing wrong with those things. But you need to remember that whatever your gift is, that you enjoy, it's fun for you to do. It's given to you for a purpose. So while my boys are out there with Brother Bobber, they never guess on track. At least talking to the guy next to him. What at sports? Are you guys that like sports? I can go down to the park and play basketball. Listen, when I was in Bible college, for whatever reason, I don't know, I started working on the absolute smallest bus route they had. It was like 6 or 8 people on the bus. They had to share a bus with the bus route next to us. Listen, this is the hardest. I mean, we had the worst projects in Indianapolis. I'm saying, listen, while I was there, they employed the rule that freshmen weren't allowed to work on that. Because we came home from bus visitation one day, and one of the ladies had a 9mm bullet in her purse. And there was a hole. Listen, I saw people running around with net hands, sawed-off shotguns. People, they don't mess with me. Because I realize that society is changing, and we're talking 20 years ago. But listen, they didn't mess with us. Obviously, we were constantly surrounded by it. I had one of my bus kids come up to me one time, and he was like, "Listen," he's like, "You need to get out of here." He's like, a riot's going to take place. And it was the worst riot that the city of Indianapolis had seen in like 30 years. And I can tell you what it started over. It started over a 6-year-old black kid and a 7-year-old Mexican kid fighting over the same swings. Then Big Brother showed up, and a cousin showed up, and aunt and uncle showed up. And then it was all the black people against all the Mexican people. And they looked at me and said, "Listen, you're white. You're going to get hit by both sides. You need to get out of here." But I just went down there, and I took a couple of my friends, and we went down there, and we started playing basketball. Listen, there's nothing funnier than 3 or 4 or 5 white guys in dress shirts and dress shoes beating up on a bunch of homeboys on the street. And I cut them a deal. I was like, "Listen, if we beat you, you got to come to church tomorrow." Okay. I mean, not physically. On the basketball court. Bunch of white guys in dress shoes, in dress shirts. Listen, I enjoy sports. So use those talents for God. To the point where we were filling 3 buses on one bus. In the really, really bad part of town. Find out what it is, and then employ it. Stick it in there. But can I tell you, here's the problem when people don't use their talents for God. Listen, that's a funny story. I enjoy telling it. It's fun. But can we just be honest that that's the majority of our talents, myself included, our gifts that the Lord gives us, we don't tell good stories. Because most of it's behind the scenes. We don't get credit. We don't get adulation, recognition for those things. Listen, someone cleaned the church this week. I can tell you 2 people that it was. Honestly, I don't know whose week it was to clean the church. It wasn't me because I don't clean. That's my wife. And I know that it wasn't Mrs. Motta because she's not that kind of clean, although she is now. Well, it could have been anybody in church. I don't know who. And whoever cleaned it, I'm thankful for you cleaning it. I'm just being honest. Somebody cleaned church. My wife and I have a deal. Our 4 kids. I don't change diapers, and she doesn't deal with mom. I just can't get that part of life. I clean. That's like so far down the list. Listen, there are lots of other things I do. I'd go back to the bad part of Indianapolis now before I clean a bathroom. Obviously, I guess I have cleaned a bathroom. But listen, it's way up. Listen, but that's not very glorious. Most of the things that we do are behind the scenes. We don't get any credit. Because we don't get any credit for it, because we don't get any adulation for it, any recognition for it, we're just not going to do it. Listen, he knows. I don't mean to. This might be adding to scripture, Lord forgive me if it is, but I was using this as an illustration. What if all those crowns you get in heaven? You got that crown for cleaning the toilet. And you got that crown for mowing the lawn. And you got that crown for painting. Look, you see what I'm doing with all the stuff that we don't think we get credit for. He knows. And we get rewards in heaven. You're going to get what that old saying, you're going to get what you deserve. Listen. Through the grace of the gift of God, you're going to get what you deserve serving Him. And I'm not doing that as a threat. I'm doing that in a good way. We will get what we deserve, what He knows. The vast majority of our gifts should be spent serving others. So you have a talent, teach someone else how to do it. You ain't always going to be here. Invest in other people. You've all heard the example what happens if every generation had to reinvent the wheel. It wouldn't be as advanced in industrial as we are, but every generation had to reinvent. Listen, part of our gifts, being an ambassador for Christ, being an influencer, being a missionary, if you will. We live in a very urgent day. If the last year has taught us anything, we're in trouble. If you didn't realize that this world was in trouble, hopefully you got it figured out this last year. Well, I watched the Olympics started. Well, I guess, yeah. Maybe for most of they always push things back. I mean, the opening ceremony was Friday. There was games going on Wednesday. It's like, the new car. I remember when I was growing up, my birthday's October 1st. That's when cars would be, the new car you would roll out on my birthday. And I thought they were doing it just for me because I was that much. And now it's like, you know, it's February, you can go buy a 2022 already. You know? But no, we were watching the Olympics. And I'm sure by now you all know what the certain athletes have been pulling at the Olympics. And I'm not trying to make a political statement. I'm just saying this world's in trouble. Why in the world would you represent your country if you're that offended? Just logically. Just saying. Can I tell you what? There was a guy from Tunisia last night that beat everybody in swimming when he was supposed to be there. Beat all the big name people. And I don't even know. Oh, Clayton was doing something. So, but for some reason, I looked it up and I forgot the exact number. But outside of the gold medal, do you realize that they get like $30,000? How many gold medals did Michael Phelps win that one Olympics? They ain't doing it for the country. They're doing it. This world's messed up. So I'm having compassion. Listen, we're going to make a difference in this world. We have to put our gifts on ourselves and start using them for Christ. And then lastly, remember that your gift comes from the gracious gift. Your gift, my gift, every good gift and every good gift comes down. I told you the other week that I got a sermon that I use for teenagers and kids. David killed the lion with his bare hands. Although, listen, honestly, I'm more afraid of the lion than I am of the bear. Like I'm thinking, in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, I could take a bear with my bare hands. I don't want to do it, but I really want to. But no, kill the lion with his bare hands, kill the bear with his bare hands. Everything that David went through. It says little shepherd boy. The prophet shows. He gets slighted. But that gets taken care of. You got any other sons? Well, there's just the baby. Go get him. He gets anointed king. The next king. Listen, how in the world is that going to happen? The Lord will take care of it. David's not worried about that. He goes and visits his older brothers. He gets on at the Uber. First thing he hears is some loudmouth jerk. Who is this guy? Who in the world is this guy? And it gets back to Saul. Saul investigates it. Shakes his head. David's like, I go take care of it. I'll take it out. I can just see Saul, whatever. Here, sign and release form. David actually does it. You do realize that not only did David kill Goliath, but Goliath had 5 older brothers. David went and took care of them afterwards. Comes back, Saul's shaking his head. Who are you, the Terminator? You know, sent from the future to save us? Who in the world are you, David? Just a kid. Just the son of a servant. I'm nothing special. You know, David could have right then said, listen, Saul came to my house and anointed me to be the next king. I'm taking your job, boy. They didn't. Just a kid.
Sam and us all.
I'm gonna go. Anything that I've done or am going to do, I'm a nobody. I saw something this week and I posted it. Always remember that you're replaceable at work. You're not so valuable to whatever company you work for, so you're not replaceable. You're a nobody. I don't care if you're the president and CEO and you're making, 9 figures a year. So you're not replaceable at home. Our gifts that God has given us, we don't want this on ourselves. And when we really truly take ownership and we understand, listen, gracious God has given me this gift, or maybe he's given me one, you got at least one. More than likely you got more, but at least one, a gracious God. After everything, last week I made this thing. I told you, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. If you don't want to tithe, don't tithe. You can answer to God for that. You don't have to answer to me. If you don't want to help keep somebody out of hell, don't keep somebody out of hell. You don't have to answer to me for it. Blood's going to be on your hands. You're going to have to answer to God in judgment. Don't do it if you don't want to do it. But this is the question. After everything that a gracious God has done for you, why wouldn't you want to? Why wouldn't you want to? Paul said, well, this is my reasonable service. It's the only logical conclusion to come to, is to do what God asked me to do. But you're free. Last year, Galatians and Ephesians, we went through, listen, you're free to do whatever you want. The consequences, you aren't free of. But you're free to do whatever you want. You got to deal with the consequences. And if you don't do what God wants you to do, guess what? You don't have to answer to me. You don't have to answer to Brother Monder or Mr. Caribou, or you don't have to answer to anybody here. You got to answer to him. And there's all kinds of things in scriptures that he tells us that he wants us to do. I tell you, a lot of people don't do what God wants them to do. They may say they do, but they don't fully grasp the gracious God has given you. Some love it. They think that it's a little bit too much. We talked about that last year. I said, if you add to the gospel, even if you're well-intentioned, start adding things to it, you're going to mess it up. When you think that anything that you accomplish has anything to do with you, you're just going to mess it up. What is that old saying? I'm the most humble person in the world. Just ask me. Only that you think you're humble, you're not. The moment that I come to we mess the whole thing. We mess up salvation. We mess up ownership. We mess up our gifts. A gracious God, with his grace, he gives us gifts. Gives us responsibilities. We've got to take ownership. Let's pray. Lord, we come before you this morning. We are thankful that you allow us to gather. Lord, I just pray that each and every one of us would take at least the one to figure out how to use it to help somebody else get close to you. First step is salvation. Serve you better. Because we can't serve you better, we can't know you better, we can't love you better until we know you. Until we get saved. Listen, you know us, but we have to know you. As the piano begins to play, you can come to the altar, you can do it in your seats, whatever. You need to take home the gifts. God has given us through these things. All right, well, like I said, now real quick.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have the outreach continues Thursday the.
Well, it might not be this week because we're gonna be.
And today, obviously, we're celebrating our church's anniversary with some food downstairs. Coming events for August will be a lot of mission stuff in August this month. The schedule is August the 4th is a Zoom call with McKinney's. August Sachsers to Israel. August 11th, Beal to Zoom call. August 15th over to Germany. August 18th, a Zoom with prayers. August 25th, call. 29th, the Robinsons to exam. And that is also a Fifth Sunday fellowship. Are there any prayer requests? Yes, you all to keep my father-in-law in mind. Arrest last evening, and my wife had to do CPR until they got to the hospital. He's having some blood pressure issues. Of course, other modern lyrics or whatever. She covered some. So, bring it down to eat. Lord, thank you for to sing praise to you, to hear your word, and to understand its meaning. We ask that you help us open our hearts and our minds to and take pass on to those that aren't saved in the word. We ask that you bless downstairs for the fellowship, and we ask that we turn this evening.